And just like that, here we are. We're going back into the original Sex in the City, you know, because we need to get the stink and the funk of And Just Like That and revisit when the show actually had some good times in it. And that is why I have started this series. I've never reviewed Sex in the City. I was a huge fan. And as you may or may not know, if you're new to this channel, I know be a fan of And Just Like That. And you can check my playlist and you can hear all my screaming, ranting, and raving. Um, it's pretty bad. So we are going back to review the original episode by episode, season by season for 6 years. We have a lot of ground to cover. So I'm going to try to get these videos out as quickly as possible for you all. It's probably going to take a commitment for the next 3 to 4 months. So I hope you all stay with me. We're going to have a lot of fun. So for all you new viewers, if you haven't caught my other 2 videos, to give you some context, and for all who have been watching me, you know this already, I did not become a true hard fan until probably season 3-ish. I started watching the original series in season 2 forcefully because of my girlfriends who were obsessed with this show. And I had to stop probably 3 episodes in because I was not understanding the whole hubbub about this show. And then I had to go back and rewatch with my friends, my girlfriends, because I was forced to pay for HBO at that time when they wanted me to rewatch it, I believe. No, for season 2. So we got our hands on, I still can't remember if it was a DVD version. I don't remember, but I know that Friday nights were rewatching Sex in the City season 1 in Lena's house with my girlfriends. Now, my girlfriends are a mix of single, married, in a relationship. So I had a good array of friends with me. So as these start to progress, the actual episodes, it was interesting that they were breathing down my neck because they were hell bent on keeping me in the show because I'm more of a sci-fi, Star Trek, Twilight Zone kind of gal. Superheroes, DC, totally my bang. So this was a great time for them to have me involved in their genre. And I have to say that I appreciated the push. And season 1, like I said, it wasn't my exact favorite, but this episode, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. My apologies. This episode 3, was the slight turning point to change my mind. So it's Friday. We're home in my home because I was single. I had my son. He was 3 years old. My friends. It was where we all convened and we were safe. No men. We had fun. And then we started watching the show. Great. Context done. Okay. So let's get into the moment that I realized that this was not your average TV show anymore. Episode 3 for season 1, Bay of Married Pigs. I have to say, I did love some of the titles of these episodes. They were kind of like catchy. I did appreciate that. So let's go to the scene opening. We have Carrie. She is narrating, saying that best part of being in New York is to actually leave it. I could see that. There are times where New York can be very overwhelming, even though I was born and raised here. I currently live in Long Island, as a matter of fact, and it's intense. You do need an escape. It's always, and every once in a while you need to get away. I need to get away. I need to get out now. Okay, I promise I'm not going to sing. Keep these short. So her escape was going out to the Hamptons, and I'm going to tell you, the Hamptons is the bane of our existence for every New Yorker, every Long Islander. I've been out there a couple of times and I don't get it. First of all, I can't afford it. But I mean, there's nice areas, but you really have to have money to understand. And even if you have money getting there, it's like Long Island is one of those places, it's an island that you just never can get off. You cannot get off Long Island. Okay. It's just a fact. Anybody who lives in Long Island and lives in New York, you know what I'm talking about. The Long Island Expressway, the Northern Parkway, you know what I'm saying. So as she narrates that she has two friends that live in the Hamptons, their name is Patience and Peter. She's there to visit who she coins the frame. They look like they just fell out of a J. Crew catalog, which FYI was not my favorite way to dress, but I got the reference. Got it. And apparently, Hampton's guests must sing for their dinner. Again, I'm learning all this. Never heard of this before, but it's Hampton specific, so that's interesting. And that she was going on to tell them about, I guess, one of her dates, how hot it was. Got in a cab and it was hot all the way down to 73rd Street, and they're sitting there as if it was like Jesus coming down, or I don't even want to say a religious reference. It was like they were very excited to hear the story. I don't know what reference I can use that's safe. Way too invested into the story. And I'm literally looking at my friends. I'm like, y'all don't feel this way, right? Like, this is not normal, right? Like, you understand that this is weird, right? And they're like, yeah, this is weird. Okay, good. Whew, got that out of the way. And as she finishes off her story to Patience and Peter, how more cute can that be? The next scene you have is that she's waking up in one of the guest rooms of this Hampton home, and she gets up and she goes out to use the bathroom. And here you have Peter, full back buttocks, no underwear, and he is front facing Carrie with no underwear. And Carrie is standing there trying to make sense of all of this. And I'm sitting there like, and my friends are waiting for something to come out of my mouth. And I was just like, wow, she's quiet. I'm like, yeah, because I don't know what to say about this because y'all scare me a little bit. And she's like, he's like, good morning. And he's drinking, I want to say he had coffee in his hand. I could be wrong. And she's like, okay, well, I'm off to the bathroom. And the next scene you have is she's sitting in the kitchen. Patience comes in. She went out to get juice and the good muffins. I have no idea what's the obsession with the freaking muffins. Listen, I'm a New Yorker. And my obsession is more the good bagels. But I guess I can understand the muffin side. I've never had a muffin in New York that I didn't like. But I know when I leave New York, the muffins, the bagels are very different than what you get in New York. I believe they say it's the water. I don't know. Can someone verify that for me? So she asks Carrie, so what are you up to? And I didn't understand this. Carrie's like, oh, well, I bumped into Peter in the hall and he had no underwear on. I'm like, my head literally tilted and my friends are just looking at me. I'm like, why would you say that to her? And then she goes off and tops it off. And by the way, you're lucky. What? I couldn't understand what the hell I was watching. I'm like, why would you tell her first and then say, hey, good for you. He has a big penis. Those two, oxymoron. So then Peter comes out and Patience tells him, hey, Peter, did Carrie see your dick in a hall? And Carrie's shocked that she told him that. I'm like, I'm still in shock that any of this is possible. I'm like, people in the Hamptons are very weird. And he says, oh, yes, I was on my way to the bathroom. I Okay. And the next thing I hear Carrie narrating is that she tells she tells patients, "What are we going to do today?" And apparently, she couldn't even get one of the good muffins into her mouth before she was shoved off to a bus. And now we get into my favorite scene, the group. Stay tuned. Now to the favorite part of the show, which is always my favorite part, when the girls get together and they just talk shit. Something greatly missing, and then just like that, they talk shit, but they were not together. It was a very disjointed conversation with people and just horrible. So this to me was the best part of the show, when they were more bonding together and they were more realistic in their conversation, and it was great. And so let's get into it. So after, Carrie was shoved off on a bus back to, New York from the Hamptons from her friend, who apparently was a little concerned that her husband had his dick in the hall, she's trying to explain to the group, the three amigas, what was happening and why did this happen. And Charlotte was like, well, was he trying to sleep with you? And Carrie was like, well, it didn't feel sexual. And I'm like, well, what did it feel like? Because that other than him shoving himself into you, that was very sexual. And mind you, I have a group of friends watching me trying to react to this, and I'm like, they're like, she's awfully quiet. I'm like, yeah, because I have no clue what just happened, but I'm gonna go with this. Let's see where this goes. Got it. Samantha says maybe he wanted to show it off, like a monkey. She questions, how big was it? Because that's the second question you ask someone that's disturbed of the whole scene. But that's Samantha. So the waiter comes back with the pepper grinder, and it's fairly large. And, Carrie gives the look that that's the size of Peter Pumpkin Eater dick that she saw. And everybody at the table is like, whoa. So then the waiter asks Samantha, would you like some fresh pepper? And she's like, yes, I would love some fresh pepper. I would love so much of it. And I believe everyone here at the table should have as much as they want. I'm like, and this is the part that made me laugh the most about the group and Samantha and the writing, and how it was taking a weird situation, making it even odder and weirder, and having someone like Samantha deliver those lines. And it just blended together really well. Because how do you go past this whole scenario? I don't know, because I would have never thought to have said any of this to any of my friends. And if any of my friends' husband's dick was in front of me, I would have a completely different reaction. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There'll be some fighting. He wouldn't have he would have no penis. I would be Lorena Bobbitt, because that's not cool. Not cool. I don't care if you're in the Hamptons or not. Not cool. Stop it. So this whole scene is set up for the question of single women and how they're viewed by married women, where Samantha brought up the fact that married women feel intimidated by single women because single women can have sex at any time and any place, and they think they're going to have sex with their husbands. Carrie's like, really? I'm like, wow, okay, didn't know that. But I'm so glad that my friends didn't feel that way from me, that we didn't get those vibes from any of us that I know of. So then Charlotte is like, well, that's not true, the doormat. And they go off on saying that, don't you ever feel weird vibes from people who are married? And, Carrie's like, yeah, when I'm at, a dinner party and I'm the only single person there and they all give you that single, aww. I've sensed that before, but not from my close knit friends. It's weird how I kind of sort of related to a little bit of this, but then I didn't really, because I had my friends who, like I said, we had a mix of different things. And then Miranda is very upset. And she's like, well, that's because we're considered the enemy. And as the narration of Carrie goes on, and this is what the prelude of this episode happens to Miranda, which, oh my God, it's so funny. that she is the only single lawyer in her law firm, and she feels a little bit ostracized. And, this whole scenario is about Miranda's vision is that single women are the enemy. Got it. We break into Carrie's bedroom and she's writing "Are single women the enemy" on her laptop. So then we go into the different variations of people. This one, who apparently is married to what I would call a robot, standing or sitting next to her, because he doesn't blink, he doesn't breathe, he doesn't move. All he's doing is staring at her, and she's going off about how, she doesn't see her friends as much as she used to, ever since she's gotten married, because, she grew up and she got mature, and it just reminds her of how desperate she used to be. I'm like, because none of what you're looking at and doing is desperate. Then we go to who I would say would be the future Miranda, where she's like, when people get married, I becomes we and us becomes me and me become us. And she's just going on and being very bitter and angry. And I'm like, yeah, I've met those women before. Then we, just for throwing in for good sake, we have the dude. His best friend married a woman that doesn't like him specifically, so he doesn't see him as often anymore, and he only sees him on Super Bowl Sundays. Okay. So that about rounded up where we were going to go in the separate storylines of the ladies for the most part. I have to say that I felt very oddly secure because I was with my friends who did not react this way on a daily basis. Whether they did it to other people, I don't know. I can tell you that in working in an office environment with so many different eclectic type of personalities, I can see where they were going with this. But I was a little cocooned because I had my life, I had my son, I had my friends, and, we were very comfortable in our own skin for the most part. But I can see where this show started to bring out things that I was not ready to deal with, or even some of it, I didn't even realize what was going on. I didn't know I was the enemy. I didn't know I can have sex anytime, anywhere, anyway, with anybody. That would have been good to know. Just saying. Next up, my second favorite, the individual break-off sessions. So stay tuned and hey, subscribe. My favorite person, Stanford. You remember him? I'm going to go on a rant again. I'm going to try to keep this one short. He is not in Japan, and we're never going to get closure, and we're never going to respect this guy's acting and the fact that he's been on the show since day one. Okay, rant over. Let's get into the scene. So they're walking in a New York City street, which, by the way, that was something also missing in Just Like That. There was more New York in this series than it was in Just Like That, and it looked more real. I can't remember, and I should have Googled it before this, if they really filmed a lot in New York City. I believe they did. I don't believe they didn't film in a lot of sound stages, but this was a nice little scene. And she's talking to Stanford, and Stanford is telling her it's not just single people, it's also gay people. And all the gay people that he know are going off to Hawaii and getting married. And, he feels like an outcast in his own outcast community because he's still single and he's not going off to Hawaii and getting married. Cute. Got it. The gay representation written very well. I like that. And that as they're walking, there's this couple, two men. One of them recognizes Carrie. And I love how this show has random people that know Carrie just pop in and pop out, and I never see them again. I never hear anything about them. And apparently, she says, hey, I want to say his name was Joe. I haven't seen you since. And then he's with his partner since I was straight. And this is my life partner. I cannot remember his name. And then they show off their wedding ring. And I go back to what I've been saying before. This is 1998. It wasn't groundbreaking what, and just like that, try to do now with the whole introduction of different types of variations of gayness, lesbianism, binary, non-binary, whatever. And even when they were doing it back then, other shows were tackling this as well. But they did it very well, and it was very seamless. It wasn't in your face. It wasn't, so, and just like that. So he's telling Carrie that, this is my life partner, and she hasn't seen him since he was in Miss Saigon, which he was an actor on Broadway, and that Stanford is like, I love Miss Saigon. Little things like that made me laugh. And Stanford asks, so where are you registered? And they're like, the life partner says, Barney's. Can someone please tell me? And I'm a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker through and through. Okay? I can do different dialects. I don't understand the obsession with that freaking store, Barney's. And this is not the only show that had that obsession. I was watching Will and Grace, and Will and Grace were obsessed with Barney. Like everything's Barney. I think I've been in there twice, and I don't get it. Is it I don't know. If you were a Barney's fan, because I believe they closed down, can you tell me why? What was in there? Was there gold hidden in those pants and shirts? What did I miss? Because I can't go back now and do it, because I would love to understand what. I was not into that at all. But I know a lot of people were on the shows. Because not even the friends that I had, even the office people, were not real Barney people. Like, they didn't go to the Barney sample sale. So I don't get it. Was this like a product placement thing that I'm not aware of? Maybe. So this whole scenario is set up where Joe is asking Carrie, is she married? And she's like, no. And he turns to his life partner and says, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, what? Because I was prepared for something. I was not prepared for this. Life partner says, yeah, that's a great idea. And they go on to say that they're looking to have a baby, and they're looking for someone to donate a healthy egg. And would she like to be a donor for their child? What? And think about it. And here's our card, and we'll pay for it. And they walk away, mano a mano, hugging each other. And Carrie's reaction was pretty much my reaction. Like, what the hell? Why would you, what? And I couldn't absorb it. I'm like, dude, random people. I don't care if I knew you before you were gay, when you were gay, after you were gay. I don't care if you were Miss Saigon or you were the Incredible Hulk. Why are you randomly asking women in the street for their eggs to have a child? That seems awfully personal. I would take it up as it was personal to watch Peter Pumpkin Eater's dick in the hall. Has anybody done that to you? And I'm talking about to that level of friendship, like not intimate friends, and even still, you don't just ask in the street. Take them out to dinner. Smooze me a little bit. Wine and dine me. Get me drunk. Make me sign something when I can't understand what I'm doing. Anything. But just randomly, hey, listen, I'm about to I need some fresh eggs, and I think of you as a grocery store. So, hey, do you mind donating some of your eggs? What the freak was that? Thank God that everybody had the same reaction, and Stanford was breaking up the card that they provided to her. And she just walked away and was like shocked, because she felt like she was being targeted for being single and that her eggs were up for sale. I know be buying those eggs. Those are not the type of eggs that I would be looking for. I'm just saying. Okay. Let's go to the next scene, because this is the one that made me laugh and laugh. And I'm talking about laugh now, because back then I believed her. Miranda. If you didn't watch the episode, get ready. And if you did, you know what I'm talking about. You know. Let's do it. Stay tuned. Miranda. So Miranda is at the company's, I'm going to say softball game, not baseball game. Could be either or. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember too much. Remember, I don't script this. And she is narrating, or Carrie's narrating, and Miranda's there, and one of the partners, or one of her co-workers, is trying to hook her up with a date. And Miranda, being afraid of being a leper in the firm, agreed to it. And he goes up to her and says, okay, I've got somebody I want you to meet. And they start to walk over to who he believes is the right fit for Miranda, Sid. And Sid's a woman. And the awkward exchange between the guy, he says, oh, look at you two. Perfect match. I'm guessing because they have similarities in their face. Let's go with that. And then he walks away and she tells Sid, okay, listen, I'll be right back. I'm going to get a soda. Do you want a soda? Yeah. Sid's like, yeah. Very nice tone, demeanor. She walks over to the partner and tells the partner, I'm going to say partner or colleague. Let's say colleague because I can't remember his name. And she starts to tell him, hey, I'm not gay. And he looks at her up and down. He goes, for real? And he's like, I just never seen you. I've been 8 months with the firm and I've never seen you with a guy. And Miranda takes offense to that. She goes, it's circumstantial. I just happen to be single. Now, I took it more of the way that he looked at her up and down and the way that he picked Sid, that her demeanor, her persona, her way she dresses, maybe didn't give off feminine energy, more lesbian energy, because look at how he picked Sid, thinking that they looked together, very similar. But then, she tells him that it's circumstantial and he's like, crap. And she's like, listen, I'll go and tell her myself. So she goes over to Sid and you don't hear what she tells her, but they start laughing and presumably she tells him I'm not gay. So they stay for the baseball game and they're both playing the game. And I guess they must have won. And they're sitting at the bench, at the bleachers, bleachers. And the senior partner comes over, Chip, because I haven't heard that name before, tells Miranda, hey, great game. Hey, listen, my wife and I are having a dinner party. We'd like to bring another couple. And would you two like to come to the dinner party? And Miranda just says, yes, we will. Yes, we will like to come to the dinner party. Poor Sid is sitting there like, did you hear the word couple? Are we a couple? Doesn't a couple mean a couple of you need to be lesbians? Okay. The next scene we have is Miranda's in Carrie's house. Carrie's in the kitchen and they come out and they're talking. And Miranda's telling her what happened. And Carrie's like, so you think that part of the reason why Chip, the senior partner, has invited you to the dinner party is because he's got you figured out, meaning that now he knows that she's gay and she's in a relationship. And Miranda says, yes, because I've been at the firm for 2 years and he's never even allowed me to call him Chip. It's always been whatever the hell his real name is. And all of a sudden, now that he has me figured out, he wants me to come to a dinner party. And Carrie is like, okay, but are you really going to go through with this? And she's like, yes, I am determined to make partner even as a lesbian. So back then, I didn't really appreciate that. But now, I think it's freaking hilarious. And I tell you why. It would have been nice to bring back some of the quirkiness of the show when, and just like that, when Miranda has decided that she is now a lesbian, that they should have brought Sid back. Maybe just walking down the street, random, and bumping into each other and had a quick conversation. And she would have told her that she was gay for sure now. And some little repertoire between them, maybe take her out to dinner, to have a good laugh, something that would have tied the old series to where she is now, the connection. It didn't have to be something grand. It didn't have to make a full episode about it. But these are the little things that would have been funny to see how her reaction would have been like, yeah, but But 22 years ago, you told me you weren't gay. So how did this all happen? That would have been cute. But no, that would take writers, forefront thinking, all of it. Now we get into Carrie and her single dilemma, which is always people trying to hook her up with a date. Yay! Stay tuned. Carrie. Carrie and the fixing up of single women soliloquy. So the next scene we have with Carrie is at, again, brunch or dinner, or it's daytime, so I don't know what it is, with these two. And I've given up trying to remember people's name that do not come back ever, because we never see these people again. They're a married couple, and they are, you know, chitting and chatting with Carrie about her being single, and, does she like being single, and one of the most uncomfortable conversations about being single, and do you want to get married? And Carrie's like, I don't know. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, this whole show is about being married, being single, and how people view you. And I'm like, oh God, this is exhausting. So as she is going through this brunch with her two unnamed friends, though they gave names, but I'm not going to give them credence because I don't know these people at all and I never see them again. You like how I talk fast? That's my New Yorker. So the next scene we have is this guy. Again, I don't remember his name because we never see him again. He is friends with these two. And apparently this was a fixer-upper kind of date because they are trying to fix Carrie up with someone. And apparently that someone is this guy because he seems to want to be married. Makes complete sense. Just throw random darts at the freaking wall and see who sticks. Because that's how I literally feel. Because if you are still interrogating your friend about how she feels about being single and if she wants to get married, but yet you know that this guy wants to get married, why not mesh the two together and see if you could make something? Please don't do that. Don't do that. Think of my friends. I mean, the worst matchmakers ever. Who does that? Okay. So the next thing you have is that they alone now at the table. The friends left because obviously it was a fix-up. And the guy says, hey, this was a fix-up, right? And Carrie's like, oh yeah, I can tell. And he goes off to say that he owns his own investment company, which means he has money and he's about to buy his own apartment, fairly large, and that his parents met as a blind date and they'll be married now for 1,000 years. And that's when Carrie narrates that she has now met the man, the elusive New Yorker who wants to get married. Because from what I'm understanding is that this is a type of person that is actively looking to settle down, which is a rarity, not just in New York, but just in men in general. I got that reference. It made sense even back then and even now. And he asked, I would like to see you again. I didn't see any chemistry between them, but awkwardly she said yes. And for the next week and a half, you go through the series of her. They are going out to the movies together. They're going out to the movies together again. And then they're walking on the avenue of Central Park, which is one of my favorite avenues. Like if you ever walk the Central Park avenues, beautiful scenery. So she also helped him to buy a cheese grater, a Williams-Sonoma, another very, very overrated. I'm sorry, it is. Some of the stuff that they sell there, even back then, was way too much. It was the name. Okay. So he says, hey, I'm having, my friends are throwing me a welcome to my new apartment party or something like that. I would like you to come and bring your friends. And she's like, sure. And then he turns to her and I don't know what he says, but then he kisses her. And in her narration voice, she's saying, he's like a DKNY dress. You know it's not right for you, but you try it on anyway. You see what I'm saying about materialistic? You just referred him to an outfit from DKNY, who was pretty popular back then. And you're not sure of the fit, but you're going to try it on anyway. It's hot. I felt the charisma right through the screen. Not. But this was the setup. Because what happens after, so funny. And I would never do that with any of my friends. But let's get to the next scene, because the big kahuna, the big one, Miranda and the lesbian, meaning her. Stay tuned. Miranda and the pseudo-lesbian couple literally is the scene of them coming out of the elevator and the narration of them. And I guess Miranda's dressed of what she thinks a lesbian would look like, and the actual lesbian is dressed very femininely. I found that to be hysterical. And they are coming into Chip's party that she was invited to because she's been figured out as a lesbian couple. Great. We don't see the dinner party. I don't know what's happening in the dinner party. All I know is the next scene with the couple is they're coming out now of the dinner party. And Chip tells Miranda that he thinks Sid is great. And, let's do this again sometime. Sid is walking off to the elevator. And Miranda says, I'll meet you there. And she turns over to Chip and tells him that, hey, check it out. I'm not really a lesbian. Well, I am not a lesbian, but Sid is. And I kind of faked this whole thing because I just wanted to have your ear for things that I wanted to do at the company. And Chip was very disappointed, and he was like, shrewd move. And that, this whole scene was set up for him to say, my wife will be disappointed because she really wanted to bring a lesbian couple into their group of what? I don't know what that means. Didn't know that we were being paired off into different types of sexual orientations. And that Miranda gets upset and she walks away because she kind of knew that she kind of blew the deal. And she's walking into the elevator, and her and Sid are in the elevator, and they're standing very close to each other. And Miranda has made the conscious decision to say, hey, maybe I should just give this lesbian thing a try in order for me not to lose my opportunity with Chip and the firm. So she turns to her and she gives her a kiss, and it was a peck. Wasn't a makeout session. I've seen her do worse. Trust me, I've seen her do worse. And in the narration part of this whole thing, you hear that she says, yep, definitely heterosexual. And Sid is like, yeah, you are. And, she turns to her, she goes, I'm sorry. And I love Sid's reaction. She goes, it's okay. Don't worry about it. This happens to me all the time. And then as the narration goes on, Miranda is cursing her heterosexuality. And that's it. That was the one that made me laugh today even more. Back then I was like, yeah, well, okay. I would think that people who are inclined to be attracted to the same sex would have some sort of benchmark of that. But now that I look back at it and just like that, and how they try to flip this all around, I go back to, they could have made it funnier. They could have brought Sid back. They could have sat down and had a conversation. They could have made something about this that wasn't so damn dowy and depressing and just, it happens. People do change. But we went from her cursing her heterosexuality, confirming that she's definitely not gay, to, oh yeah, I want to break up my marriage and I want to be with Che and this is my life and you're going to have to live with it. So suck it up. Woman, thou protested too much, okay, to do this 180 circle flip. If it's not 180, it's 190, whatever the hell it is, for us to stand there as, because we remember, you do know that this is on video, right? People did watch this and rewatch this, and they were all part of this. You could have done this a lot better, Michael Patrick King and Cynthia Nixon. Just saying. Brought some lightheartedness to it. You didn't have to destroy an entire family and a characterization of the whole team. I'm not going to get into this rant. You can go watch my videos on just like that. So, now we're going to flick back to the dinner party from, the DKNY dress that Carrie's trying on that she's not sure, but she's going to try it on anyway because it's not a fit. Guy. Oof. That was a mouthful. Hey. Stay tuned. Subscribe. We are here at the DKNY's party's house, where we have the three amigas who are anxiously waiting to go to this party because they, well, at least for Samantha and a little bit of Charlotte, but for totally different reasons. Charlotte for marriage and Samantha for sex. They open the door and they see a bay of couples, 2 by 2, like Noah's Ark. Samantha is very disappointed because she realizes that this is a party for couples. And DKNY shows up and he introduces himself to the girls. And the first thing that Samantha wants to do is go to the bar. So she's off. And then he wants to give a tour to Charlotte and to Carrie of the apartment. And as they're walking through, you can hear Carrie's narration of she felt a little bit safe because people were staring at her as if she's gotten figured out because now she's in a couple. Because remember, this is the running theme of this episode. So the next thing you have is Samantha in the kitchen and she's talking to this guy who is the fat version of Clark Kent, Superman. It's the first thing I thought about in my head. I don't know why I thought of Clark Kent. I don't know why I thought of Superman, but something about him reminded me of Superman. And he's giving her stock advice as he's trying not to look at her sexiness. Because you could tell he was trying really hard not to. And he's just, and she's like, and I don't understand if she really thought she was going to get it on with this guy. The wife shows up and tries to whisk him away as he's introducing Samantha to his wife. And Samantha's like, really? The wife is like, come on, honey, we got to go. So he's off to, the married couple land. The next thing we have is the end of the tour from DKNY. And he is showing Charlotte and Carrie the room that he is now utilizing temporarily as his office. But don't worry, because the intention of this office is to eventually be for the baby that he hasn't had yet because he's not even married and he keeps looking for a wife. Not odd at all. And I swear to God, when you turn over to Charlotte and to Carrie, I could literally see Charlotte's eggs flowing down her fallopian tube. And you have Carrie, who looks like as if someone murdered her favorite shoemaker, Manolo Blahnik. And he shows them the baby crib carousel that he would get for his unborn child with his unknown wife. And we turn back to Charlotte, who is like, oh, you're my everything. You're my dream. I'm like, girl, calm down. And Carrie's like, I need, let me out. Let me out of this crate. Let me out of this dress. This not my style, doesn't fit. Got it. The next thing you have is Carrie makes her way over to the kitchen where Samantha has decided to drink and get drunk off tequila. And she is telling Carrie, hey, Carrie's apologizing to her about the fact that she didn't know this was going to be a couple's party. And Samantha's not even listening. She's like, you see that guy over there? That buddy? I slept with him. You see that other buddy over there? I slept with him too. And Carrie's reaction is like, well, maybe we should tag all your married men so you don't lose them. I'm going to leave that for you guys to debate if that was a sarcasm necessary. And what I loved about this scene is that it could have turned out that Samantha was upset that she didn't know that they were married. No, it turns out that Samantha was upset because she knew they were married and she thought she'd never see them again. And that's what I'm saying. Now I'm getting what the hell's going on. Now we have a show. Now I'm understanding why my friends are like, you have to wait because you don't really understand the character of Samantha. I'm like, okay. And when I saw that, I was like, you know what? It's not that it was proper for her to be with married men. It's just that they turned a situation that could have been more self-doubting and more upset, like typical TV shows. Oh my God, I didn't know he was married. She's just like, no, it's just that I never expected to see them again. And that is why it's funny. That is why you have the person write it that way and the person that's delivering it with the sincerity and the truthfulness of like, hey, I knew they were married. I just never want to see them again. Love, Samantha. She made the show. Sorry, she did. So let's get into, well, let's top this off with Charlotte coming into the kitchen and telling Carrie that this DKNY is going to ask her to marry him, and Carrie is in denial. She's like, no, he's not. And she's like, well, no man is going to buy a classic 6 apartment on the Upper West Side, which is not cheap. Not then, not now. And that have a baby room. And Samantha's reaction is like, if you turn out to be one of those married women, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. And I love her because she's hilarious. How do you do that? And maybe I'm partial to Samantha because I like Kim Cattrall in this role, but she knows how to deliver a line and she knows how to make it well. So let's get into the nightmare that ensues in the living room of the DKNY party. So now, as Carrie is going around talking to his friends, we have Clark Kent, the fat version, and pseudo Lois Lane expressing to Carrie that DKNY is a good guy and he has $300,000 in the bank. I know marketing has always been a thing, but this is taking it to another level. Okay? He has his own PR team. Then we go into these two at the party. Never met Carrie before, not that I know of. And they're telling Carrie, hey, we both slept with him and he's amazing in bed. What the hell? Back at the trucker up. And Carrie almost chokes on her drink. And I was like, y'all crazy. This show is insane. Like, who? This is beyond personal branding and marketing and a PR team. This is outright. Rich people are weird. I'm just saying. Doesn't have to be white. Could be any rich person. But I'm not getting a good sense of what's happening here. Why? Did he tell her, these two clowns, to tell him or Carrie that? Don't. Next. As Carrie tries to claw her way out of every situation that she's been put in front of, she's in the living room and Charlotte comes over and says, hey, Miranda's really drunk. Miranda, God darn it. Not Miranda. I don't know why she's stuck in my head. Samantha is really drunk. And Carrie's like, please don't leave me here. And as she's telling this to Charlotte, guess who is at the party? Peter Pumpkin Eater and his wife, Patience. And she turns around as she hears their voices, and Patience is like, oh my God, when we heard that you were dating DKNY, I don't remember his name, and that's going to be his name, we were so happy for you. And as this goes back to the running theme, because she was figured out, and she felt better because her dick in a hole husband can now probably sleep in the room again. So Carrie's trying to apologize for the incident at the Hamptons because it's her fault, obviously, that her husband decided to share his dick. And Patience is like, please don't mention it. And she tries to apologize again, and Patience is losing her patience. Please don't mention it. We see Samantha coming out from the kitchen and going up to the girls, and she's like, this party sucks. And she turns over to Peter and Patience and like, who are you? Another married couple? Great. And Carrie introduces them as Patience and Peter. And Samantha's like, I know you. She's drunk. She starts to laugh. And she said, ha, you're a big peppermill dick. Peter. That's it. The show won me over. This is when it turned for me. I was like, yeah, okay, I can get into this. If this is how it's going to be for the rest of the series, I totally understand. And as that happens, Patience is pissed off, and Peter Pumpkin Eater is like, yeah, baby, you know that he's sick, right? That's not normal. I would be looking for a very good divorce lawyer. You can tell me all in the world how much money you have and how much patience you have, but oh my God, my husband showing his penis around and he's very proud of everybody calling him whatever the hell. No, 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 no. Girl, run, run, run. So now we have Samantha and the boy toy, because that's all I can call it. Stay tuned. It's funny. Samantha and the boy toy. So Charlotte has decided to take Samantha home because she was too drunk and take her home to her apartment because she wanted her to be safe. And I thought that was sweet. And that's the things that I kind of miss about And Just Like That. And we won't go into that rant, but these are the little moments that mean a lot. So as she's getting out of the cab, the doorman, boy toy, we're going to call him boy toy. Samantha's drunk and she notices the boy toy, and the boy toy opens the door and Samantha's like, ooh, you're a cutie. I like it. A little too young for you, but okay. We remember Samantha is a sex addict, so she's going to get her sex on, drunk or not. So as they go through the hallway of the apartment building, the next thing you have is Samantha comes back down with a long coat, the coat she was wearing, and she's going to get her boy toy. She goes out and she asks the boy toy, can I have a cigarette? Because he's smoking a cigarette. And we all know Samantha doesn't smoke. So I'm like, where are you going with this, Samantha? What you doing? And he tries to give her the cigarette. And then she opens up her coat. And oh my God, the only thing I can see were abs. Abs everywhere. Good for you. Because she was 40. I don't know. I don't think Kim has children. But wow. And remember, I'm 29. I just had my kid. And my abs did not look anything like that. So I was like, that's inspirational. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I may not have to ever eat again and maybe just have sex. But I was impressed. So as she is coercing boy toy to kiss her, he kisses her and he's like, we can't do this. And he puts her coat back on and she's like, just go upstairs. Just for a minute. So the next scene we have is that they're going into the hotel. Well, it's not a hotel, it's Charlotte's apartment building. The next thing we had is Charlotte's waking up because she hears noise and she thought it was Samantha. She gets up from her room and boy toy didn't even have time to put on his shirt, pants, and only has his socks on. And she catches him and she's shocked and I'm shocked. I'm like, what is happening here? And he says, I'm sorry, miss. I have been lonely since I moved here and I wanted to have and feel the touch of a woman. No boundaries. First of all, you're the doorman. You're not her boy toy. You're the doorman. Have some decorum, please. Jesus. And Charlotte's looking at him like, what the, get out. I never want to hear this again. I never want to even know about this ever again. I'm going into the ladies' room and when I go to the bathroom, you need to be gone. The best part of this was, let me get the door, miss. And this is what I'm saying. It's these little nuances that they threw into the show that pulls you in and out of the scenario, but in a good way and made you laugh. And I was like, wow, that was a special touch. That was hilarious. So he is walking out and he's, I guess, kicking himself because he knew he got caught, but he tried to make it up to the miss by opening the door to her for her. Hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. So here we go. We're back to DKNY's house. Okay. So as Carrie's trying to get out and she's telling DKNY that she's leaving and he's like, I wish that you wouldn't leave. And Carrie has come to the realization that he wants her to stay overnight. And she tells him that, hey, listen, you were like something I was trying on to see if it fits. Because that's what every man wants to hear, said no one ever. She just really doesn't have any way to say, hey, you're not my, I don't even know how to get out of it, to be honest with you. But saying that was not my first choice. So then he says, you smell the desperation on me. And I'm like, I smelled it from when you were at the restaurant, but that's okay. We won't go there. And he gets pissed off because he's like, I don't understand. All you women, all I ever hear is that you want to get married. And now you finally found someone that wants to get married and I can't get anybody to marry me. Okay. When you are sitting alone, carry that back to you in your mind and see why you're saying this and how it sounds with the words coming out of your mouth. So Carrie tries to comfort him and, you know, she's like, listen, you'll find that right one. He's like, well, I'm tired. Where's the right? Yeah, that elusive man that wants to get married, I can see why he is elusive. Stay in your lane. Go over there. Just don't talk. Just wait until somebody comes around. Because all of that bitching and moaning and crying was weird. So then a light bulb goes in her head and she says, I may have someone for you. And all of a sudden his ears perk up and he goes, who? Because he given up on Carrie in the 2 seconds that they've known each other. And he's like, yeah, okay, so you're done. So who you got for me, girl? Talk to me. And I'm like, oh no. No. They do. So yes, it's exactly who I thought. Unfortunately, Carrie is now hooking up Charlotte with DKNY. And as the narration goes, they started off slowly, a movie here, a concert there, and pretty soon they were shopping for China for a wedding. And as they approach the China patterns, DKNY says, I always wanted that pattern for my wedding. And Charlotte looks at him and says, ew. And that's it. She broke it off. Because that was the problem. He was something and she was American classic or something like that as she's walking towards her home on Park Avenue, I presume. And I'm like, what? I looked at my friends and said, please, for the love of God, do not recycle anything that you do not want. I do not like to recycle. As she's walking towards the boy toy doorman, the doorman, boy toy, says to her, hey, your friend never called. Why is that? So we'll just have no boundaries? That's it. This is cause for firing someone. And she's like, I don't know. And then she walks into her building. And then the next scene you have is Carrie is walking in New York at night. And she's narrating, her narration about, yes, I would like to be with someone. It would be nice to be in a couple. And she's going on and on. And maybe the fight between single people and married people is not so much, a fight. She's just rambling at this point. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. She's walking and we're going to be depressed and I'm just going to throw myself in front of a cab. No, what happens is that she finished her narration and she says, there's nothing better than a night out with your single friends to a movie. And then you see her walking up to the movie theater and there you have the three amigas and then you have the Aretha Franklin song, all I want is a little bit of respect. And they hug each other, they kiss, and they are spending the night going to the movie theater as friends. And this is what I'm saying. This is what made the show for me. And this is what turned it around. And this is what, my friends, how I tie this into my real life at that moment is that, believe it or not, my friends at that moment figured me out. How, you say, is because I don't like knowing what's coming. That's why I like science fiction and I like all those kind of shows, because it kind of makes you think. It kind of makes you wonder, even though some of it may be realistic. The Star Trek, the Twilight Zone, all of that, Star Wars, all of that. Even some of the comic books. It's like, how? How does Bruce Banner turn into the Hulk? What is that? Gamma? What? How did Iron Man make that suit? How smart is he? How did Star Trek and all of the things that they got involved with, different planets, different people? And my friends were like, they saw it in my face and they're like, oh, that's who you are. I'm like, yeah, I've only been telling you for 5 years now. What, you just don't hear me? Because what the hell? I like different challenges. I like not knowing what's going to come. I like to figure things out. So they figured me out the same way that the show finally tapped into what I felt was one of the small turning point, but it was a turning point. And I appreciated that. And that's when I started to sit back a little bit and get comfortable while, the breath of my friends were slowly moving away as the weeks started to come around and I started to really appreciate what this show was delivering on a different level. So next up is my epilogue, though I've pretty much said a lot, but we always have to cap this off with a little way. So stay tuned. Epilogue. How did you guys feel? I'm not going to tell you so much what I felt because I think you got the gist of how I felt. How do you remember feeling when you watched this episode, even on rewatch, even today, even for the newcomers who've never watched the show? Does it still resonate with you? For me, as I said before, it was a strong entry into where I thought the first 2 episodes were weaker. I still didn't like the overall feeling of you're the enemy because you're single and people are looking at you. And it was very focused at that time of you're in your 30s, you need to get married, you need to settle down. You have this, I'm like, wow. And again, I was 29 turning into 30 and it sent me into a bit of a panic mode. I was with a very good group of friends that had different variations in their life happening. I had a beautiful child, so I was very happy. I had a good job and I had good people at work. And, a lot of them were talking about this show. And I kind of got it, especially at the certain levels that they were talking about it. As we start to get into the further episodes, the resonating theme of being alone and not getting married or being married falls into the entire series, and then how pretty much it ended with just like that and just like that for Carrie. You really think about this, and as you start making the connections, I don't know if it was purposeful. I don't believe Michael Patrick King did anything other than to piss us off to be purposeful. I don't believe the show was not canceled. I do believe that they had another series, another show, and that eventually Carrie would end up with someone. So I'm not buying it, but her whole arc with how she felt as a person, lonely, the whole big and feeling, under, he's too much for her, really starts to come into play. And the rising stars of how their personalities really shifted, other than Samantha, who had moments of variations, she pretty much stayed true to her sexual addiction, but her intimacy with her friends really brought out so much more for me. But the rising stars of their personalities have become and will become Charlotte and her kind of different things that she goes into, and Miranda as well, And what I loved about this going into it, as we start getting to 4, 5, and 6 in the next couple of weeks, I'll say it again and I'll say it once more, all the time. It was the bond. It had nothing to do with the outlandish storylines, though they were funny. It was well written, even when it had those moments of what in the tarnation is happening, and you still were able to laugh and appreciate it. Maybe some even resonated with it. And I wish that they would have sat back, because apparently SJP never really watched the old episodes of Sex and the City, which is bull crap. If someone had taken the time to go back and watched the original series, maybe they would be still on the show and they would still have a show, because that was what was missing. And even though it saddens me what happened between Kim Cattrall and the show and all that, and again, I don't know, I wasn't there. I can only hear two sides of the story, and I'm leaning towards Kim more than I am to SJP, only because we hear so many other things about her from other places. But I wasn't there, so I can't tell you. I just feel bad that they brought that show back and it lost everything. And I am so happy that I decided to do this, because I was really going to give up on the original series. I had decided that I never want to watch it again, even though I have all the DVDs and it's on streaming and all that. And I was like, it killed it for me. The show, and just like that, killed it for me. But I found a new, way of watching this and enjoying this now with you, and the way that you guys engage with me and you are enjoying it too. It kind of sparks something inside of me that I'm like, you know what? I can put And Just Like That in the trash, which I have, and go back and relive and enjoy what was the show and my feelings. And I can remember most of what I was going through at that time, which we'll share as we go deeper, because now you get to know a little bit about me, and tie it into the disaster of what we all went through the last 3 years. But still, I can smile. And I haven't done that for this show in a very long time. Since And Just Like That, I stopped smiling. It was enraging, that show, enraging. And you all know that. And you haven't, go look at my playlist. And the fact that I can smile and I can enjoy this with you makes my heart so warm and so happy. And I look forward to recording and uploading. And I hate editing. I hate it. It takes me a long freaking time. An hour video takes me 7 hours to edit. Believe it or not, it does. But it's a labor of love. So I want to thank you all. We're going into episode 4, because I did just episode 3, and I am going to have to do them separately, because I talk a lot and we go through a lot, and I can't merge the 2 videos together, because then it'll be 2 hours. And come on, I don't even have time for 2 hours. But I think separate doses, at least if I can pre-record as much as I can and get it out more than once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, we can get through this. So I just want to wish you all a happy Labor Day weekend. Fall is coming. Christmas is around the corner. Somewhere in there, my birthday's happening. I'll be 56. And I want to share that day with you when it happens. I'm going to keep it a secret. But just so you know, I'm a Scorpio. Yeah, baby. Scorpio. So have a wonderful, thank you, all blessed day. Thank you. Goodbye. Mwah.